everybody's life, and that is your credit. This can determine whether or not you pay high interest over the life of a loan. It can affect whether you are able to rent at a good rate, and it gives you either good or low negotiating concerning as you try to make transactions. So I'm going to pass this thing on. There's a good discussion because it affects everything we do in terms of our buying power, our bargaining power, and things of that nature. From student loans that can impact credit. And I'm going to pass this on to the group here. Matter of fact, we're going to do an introduction right now. I'm Derek Dees, Executive Director for Man Fatherhood Initiative. Going to the left.
I am Daniel Blevins, Intervention Specialist, Man to Man of Florence.
Terrence Turner, Data Quality Manager, Man to Man Fatherhood Initiative.
Craig Lightfoot, Employment Developer.
Okay, Terrence, take it away.
Yeah, I think it's important that we need to know about credit and how it affects us adversely or positively. One thing we need to know that credit gives lenders and fast objective measurement to how their credit risk will be. People can get loans faster. Back in 1956, this is how long this has been going on. So Bill Fair and Earl Isaac, they came together in California. They formed this company called the Fair Isaac Corporation. So that's where you get your FICO score from. And when it really took off in 1995, when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac stipulate that the mortgage industry must use their scores to get loans of that nature. So that's why that's important. And you need to know your credit score because if you don't know it, it can hurt you. One thing about it, the lower your score, the higher the interest rate. So you have an inverse relationship with that. So the higher your score, the lower your interest rate. So you want to make sure you have the highest score possible. Why is that so important? So as you're paying a lower interest rate, guess what? The payment goes down as well. So the higher the interest rate, the more you're paying in the long term. So number one, you need to know exactly what your number is. And a lot of people don't even realize why credit is so important. If you want to make big ticket purchases like cars and maybe a house or some real estate lands of that nature, you need to know you want to pay the lowest amount as possible because you want that property to appreciate in value, right? So as it appreciates in value, you get more money in. However, if your score is low, it'll be slim to none that you may be able to get a loan for a big ticket item, maybe a car, a house, or anything like that.
And
Yes,
that's
sir.
good. What I've learned is with good credit, two things. Gives you negotiating power.
Come on. Yes, sir.
Right? And with that, it determines how much you may get on a loan, depending upon how well your score is. Also, with lenders, with your credit, it determines your character.
That's good.
Right? Because if you have a good credit history, this is why credit is so important. If you have a good credit history, it determines if you're dependable. That's why jobs are now doing your credit.
Absolutely.
Because they want to know, are you a person that you say you are?
Right.
Character. And we talk about character so much on this job.
Yeah.
So that's two reasons why credit is so important.
Also, it tells them what you do with your time in action.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know whether or not you're a good steward. What you do with your time in action sort of gives them a snapshot of what you're going to do if you're on the job. I'll give you a case in point. A lot of federal jobs, such as the federal prison, federal jobs that deal with high-risk inmates, a lot of times they feel as though if you are struggling financially, then you may be more prone to accept the bribe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are financially healthy, then you're less likely to be tempted. So it has a lot to do with what you do with your time in action. I think that's very important. A lot of those things we don't take in account and not paying your bills on time.
Yep.
And sometimes it's we have to know what things that will report and what things won't report. For example, if I pay my utility payment or my cell phone payment, things like that may not get reported. But things like you said, the cars, the house, or things that you know, or you can write a letter and request it as reported to the credit bureau. So you're right, very important.
And even one thing along with that, even with making your payments, but making them on time.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows you're responsible. You're gonna pay it when you say you're gonna pay it. And I know a lot of times we might have a grace period, and it's okay to use that, but be mindful about how many times you use it, and stay mindful of that grace period.
One of the things I think about is because I never really had anybody to to teach me about credit.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things I think about, if I could go back and do it, is to teach my children about the importance of credit. Now my grandfather talked about being, what's the word I want to use? Is it frugal? Be thrifty with your money.
Yeah. That's good.
I had a bank account when I was 5th grade.
Wow.
And he was kind of trying to teach me about money then. I didn't get it. I see it now. And so sometimes I'll throw a bone to my sons, but I have not gone into the concepts of credit building, the importance of credit. And this is a good subject today because a lot of what we do can hinge on good credit.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
And start teaching your children about credit really early.
That's good. Because we have to realize we live in a credit-driven society
Absolutely.
right now.
Mhm.
So you have to make sure, number one, that you know what your score is. Number two, that everything is accurate that's on your report.
Yes.
See, it could be things that on your report that you may not even know. Because see, what people don't realize, it's a scoring system. So it's just based on numbers, right? So it doesn't know if you have a common name, say like your name Craig, right? Somebody else's name Craig. It don't differentiate between the Craigs, right? So somebody else stuff may enter in your report as well. So that hurts you.
And that has happened before.
And I think that's where people need to know that they can get a copy of the credit report every year. I think it's annualcreditreport.com.
Every year, yes, sir.
And that would give everyone a chance to pull their credit report once a year for free and see what's on it. Things that you can dispute, maybe take off, pay off, or things you need to kind of just work on paying down to boost your credit score.
Sounds good.
And some people may wonder, well, why should I be concerned with my credit? Well, it can be the difference from paying $10,000 for something, and if you are high risk, because of the interest rate, you may end up paying $25,000 for a $10,000 purchase because you're deemed as a high risk. So that interest rate will determine how much you pay on the life of the loan. And for example, if let's say, the summertime, everybody likes to get the motorcycles, and I used to ride motorcycles. And you may come across, let's say you see this Hayabusa, and something you guys can relate to. You see this Hayabusa. You go to Suzuki, and you go and you see a Hayabusa is $13,000. All right. If my credit score is anywhere between the 660, 700, I may be able to go and get a loan right at 3%. Right, 3%. So with that 3% loan, that may put my monthly payment, maybe $95 or $85. But if I have a 580, 530, 520, that same Hayabusa, that if I had a good credit score, I'm paying $95 to $100 a month. Now I'm paying almost $200 a month for the same amount. But my credit score determines whether or not I'm a high risk on the monthly payment. Also, mortgage. If I have a bad credit score, let's say I see a house that's about $150,000. You're to make that major purchase. If my credit score is anywhere between 660, 720, or up, that house for $150 may go in the neighborhood of $500 a month. Versus if I had a 580, then that same $150,000 house, now they put something called PMI. That's right. So that's an extra $100 on top of what I was going to pay. And now there's a higher loan. So instead of paying $500 a month, now my payment is like $850 a month. So it determines what I pay monthly because of my interest that I qualify for.
And one thing to even add to that's part of what you're saying, you might be required to pay a higher down payment. Versus, it's like you said with the motorcycle, I might have walked in, hey, it's $500 down.
No money down, or
no money down based on, I got the right credit score versus, hey, well, you're going to have a higher payment plus a higher down payment, or you have to pay a higher down payment to get your monthly payment lower.
Absolutely.
So those are things to also consider along with what you're saying.
That's good. You made the term, you said PMI. That's that private mortgage insurance. And why would they want you to require that? Because to lower your score, you are more likely in their estimation to default on the loan that you got. So they want to have some insurance to say, okay, just in case you do not make your obligation that you said you're going to make, we're going to want some assurance that we have something to cover that. So that is so important about that.
You're right. And I just added what he said. They're saying that based upon your credit score is basically a reflection of your spending habits or your lack of paying habits. So what he said is important. What they're saying is looking at his credit score historically, that is saying that he misses a couple payments every now and then. And we don't want to be one of the ones he missed a payment on. So we're going to make him pay extra. So the times he's late, we've got that money from him, from the PMI. You're absolutely right.
Yes, sir. Powerful. I want to go back to something Craig said. He said about employers are now looking at credit scores for employment. I think that's very important about that as well, because I don't think a lot of people realize the higher your score, you want to make sure that you are setting yourself up in the best light to be hired by that potential employer. So think about it. You said character, right? We have our executive director here. Say, for instance, he had 2 candidates, pretty much same education, all of that. And the only differentiator was the credit score. One had a high credit score, one had a very poor or low credit score. Okay. Who do you think our executive director would go with and why?
Well, your credit score shows your history. Your credit report shows your history, right?
Mm-hmm.
It shows if you're a person of your word. That means you're going to do what you say you're going to do. You are reliable. And so he's going to go with the person who's the most reliable person. That person's going to get the job done.
That's good. That's good. So that's a key, guys. We want you to drive that home. You must know what your score is and have the highest score as possible. Yeah. Because that character is a big thing. Mm-hmm. And we talk about the 5 C's. Character is one of those 5 C's: character, capacity, capital, conditions, and collateral. Your character is huge because that's who you are as a person. You may think, okay, I can miss a payment here or there, but what is that saying to a potential lender, a potential employer, things of that nature? So you have to put in your mind, like, okay, this is really important.
That means you're responsible.
You are responsible, personal responsibility. So who is this person when things don't look so seemingly, when things get a little tough? What would that person really do?
I think one thing we have to look at also, and go back into our personal history with our friends and family. Sometimes we borrow money from family and we may not pay it back, but you have to understand when you may go apply for a loan, they might ask for a reference.
Wow, that's good.
Now, if Derek is my brother and I borrowed money from him a couple of times and not pay him back, but I list Derek as a reference, that bank calls Derek. What do we think Derek's going to say?
That's right.
But if I'm responsible in paying him back, hey, he's good with this. I've loaned him money several times. He's paid me back on time. I've never had a problem seeking my money. So we have to be careful in our personal relationships because we're going to use those people as references.
Yeah, I like that.
That's like my uncle. He used to always say, "You're not a good paymaster." That's old school. And if he gave you $1 and you didn't get $1 back, and you want to borrow 50 cents, no, you're not a good paymaster.
Yeah,
not even 50 cents. Is my credit that bad? Listen, some people hold credit.
Absolutely.
It's serious about credit.
I just want to piggyback on that. Both of you guys said something that was very powerful. It's not the amount. It's about the habit that's formed.
It's honoring your obligation.
That's right. So if you do it in a small amount, those same habits going to transfer to a larger amounts as well.
Faith of a little.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You want to say something?
Oh yeah. Actually, when you said something, I thought about we have to be very careful of co-signing of loans.
Wow.
That people will not get payers because now you're tied to that loan.
Yes.
Let's say even if your friend, your brother, your sister, and you know that they have a habit of, I'm going to skip this month, I'm going to go splurge, and the second month is splurge, and you co-sign on a loan, and let's say that credit score is so low that the lender requires a co-signer, you sign on that loan. If they default on that loan, they may put a lien on you. So now you're an innocent bystander, or seem to be. But now you go to apply for a loan because now you want to go buy a new car, and they go to run your credit because I pay on time and all these things, I do well, and you do the application, they go to run your credit, and you ready to get that 2020 Pontiac or whatever. And now sir, we're going to have to give you a high interest rate. Instead of you getting that 3%, now you got an 8% interest or 10%. Like, what's going on? Well, I see you have a ding on your credit. What happened? You forgot 3 years ago, you co-signed on the loan that your brother or sister or friend defaulted on because you co-signed. A lot of people don't realize the power of co-signing.
That's good. That's good. And just to piggyback on that as well, if you co-sign on that loan and that person defaults and don't make a payment, guess who they're calling next? That person that co-signed on that loan. So you're like, okay, that can be problematic because then that relationship, say for instance, me and Craig, I co-signed for a loan for him. He's not making the payments. Now they start to call me. Well, Mr. Craig didn't make his payment this month. What are you going to do? Are you going to make the payment for me? Now I'm calling Craig. Hey man, you didn't make the payment. Well, I couldn't make it. Well, you're going to have to make it. You co-sign. So that can strain the relationship as well.
Yeah, very much. That's why it's very important, even as we need to educate our kids about credit, because let's say Junior now is in the 12th grade. He wants to go off to South Carolina State. He wants to go off to another school. He wants to go off to school. And you take out a student loan because you're the parent. And so they're going to go off your tax information. Yeah. And so you sign, and your child may not want to he majors in something, but may not be into it because you go to a school and want to party and all. You need to talk to him because let's say you done took 2 years worth of student loans on your child. And that child's like, forget it. I don't want to do school no more. I want to go do something else. Guess who's still responsible for that student loan?
Yeah, you are.
You are. And student loan dings are hard. You can get hit on the student defaulting on the loan, and they can knock almost 20 points off your credit score off missing 1 month. I mean, it's just that strong. Maybe 5 points here, 15 points, 20 points here, because that's why we should educate our kids. Now, listen, I'm taking this student loan out for you, but it's very important that you handle your business in school. And once graduating, I need you to go ahead and do these things and get that job so you can start making this student loan payment, because the parent is going to be required on that student loan.
So that goes back to my original question. How early do we start teaching credit?
Financial literacy.
Yeah.
To our children.
And I think one thing about it is why it's important to teach early, leading to what Derek just said about college. A lot of kids go off to college, and the first thing that is put in front of you is a credit card. And a lot of times we're there and we're hungry, or we want some new clothes, or we see other students,
the new Jordans came out.
The new Jordans came out. However, and there's credit card offers in front of you.
We think it's free money. Just swipe the plastic.
And no one explained to you, hey, maybe go to college, get one card and keep this amount versus, Visa over here.
Max it out.
Capital One over here. And kids, like I say, if they haven't learned that lesson young, they get to a place where they're an adult and now someone's offering me money, I'm just going to automatically take it. But if I had that literacy lesson, coming up, I understand maybe I don't need to get all these credit cards as soon as I turn 18 or get to college and lose my mind. And 4 years from now, I got
this responsibility,
$50,000 in debt from credit cards.
Absolutely. I tagged you on a video, but you was already familiar with it.
Correct.
Young man was teaching his son about
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
Yes, sir.
And I was so blown away, and it made me think, man, I wish I'd known this. I could have been teaching my children the importance. And I mean, the kid, he was so well versed in how he was teaching, and that kid, he was responding.
Right.
And I just thought it was so valuable.
I will say this: most banks right now, if you're a member of a credit union or banks, you can actually go and request to set up a little student account, and most times it's free with the banks. And you can educate your child, even something as small as putting $50 on it, and teach them how to spend. It's okay. Now you take this card. You got $50 on this card, all right? Because it's a free checking account. And as you go and make purchases, either with toys or soda, teach them how to balance, right? Okay, you just spent $1 for this Gatorade. How much money do you have? 49. Good. All right. Don't overspend. Now
That's
budget that out.
Mhm.
Teaching them how to, but just small steps, simple things. And as you're driving in the car, talking to him about credit, talking to him about credit worthiness, what that means in the long run, and then you can come down to this. Based upon what teaching them how to read a bank statement. When the bank statement come in the mail, teach them, you know, you look, you spent $1 here, you spent $3 here. Look at what you got now. And just these things can lead to teaching him how to be responsible. Because at the end of the day, we go through school, we take all types of courses. I took French 1, French 2 in high school, took French in college. I don't use French. But what I do use every day is spending power and buying. So we should really take a deep dive in education that we're actually going to use on a daily basis. So we spend so much time, and not saying geometry didn't come into play, but come on, I don't wake up saying, how can I apply the Pythagoras theorem? You know, but I do wake up and say, okay, I want to make this purchase in the next 2 years or the next 3 years. I need to get my credit score here because that determines what size house I can get based upon what my credit score is. You know, let me tell you something. There are some people that make the same amount of money you make, and you look at them, why do they seem to have more? Do they have more in their pocket? No. They have more access to capital because of that credit. I want to say that. Access to capital because of your credit. You may want to start a business. And one of the things they want to look is your credit. And you can start a business off having good credit.
You know,
access to more money.
Anthony Green, for y'all, Anthony Green is credit guru. But I said to Anthony one day, I asked a question. I said, man, I want me this house. But you know, I make this money. He said, well, you can get it. How? He said, I'll show you, but it's all about your credit. Yep. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And Anthony, knowing Anthony, he's gonna show me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. That's good.
And one thing going into the business part of it, you know, you going in to apply for a small business loan and people are looking at it, you know, you need to know your numbers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing.
So you're bargaining, right?
Yeah. And, you know, one thing you alluded to about showing kids about budgeting, one easy thing that we can do as parents is sit your child down with your bills you already have.
Absolutely.
You know, write down, we did a seminar for kids, and I asked all the kids, I said, well, tell me what you think your mom's car payment is, house payment and stuff. And they were just coming up with all kinds of numbers. And then when their parents come up and actually write it down, the kids are like $2,000 off.
Wow.
I'm looking at the monitor, and Neil Charles, who's one of our past participants, our client, he was responding to a question about teaching credit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, teach early as possible.
Early as possible. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So let's throw this out. Let's say you have dings on your credit. Let's say you made some frivolous purchases, wasn't responsible in paying it back. Let's talk about ways we can dispute your credit report. Because Dan, you said earlier how you can request a free annual credit report. And let's say you see some things on there that may not be applicable, may be false. It may be someone else has made it, or your something didn't report properly. How can we dispute? Because once you dispute something in your credit report, if it's removed, it can cause your credit score to bump up. So let's talk briefly about how do I dispute infractions on my credit report.
That's good. That's good. Again, like you were saying, first, number one, you got to get it and see what's on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure, go through it and read and make sure everything on it that is accurate. It must belong to you. If it doesn't belong to you, you can do a dispute letter, like you were saying. And they, the credit bureaus must investigate, and you do that letter, and they have to get back with you within a reasonable amount of time to get it off your credit score, so they can increase your score as well.
And if, let's say, I have something that shows at Citibank saying that I missed a payment for $57, but I knew I paid it off.
Mm-hmm.
Once I write that letter saying I'm disputing this from Citibank, and usually they're going to ask for a picture of your social security card, your photo, your ID, which is your driver's license, and the letter. Send it in. Once they send it in, Citibank has a couple of days to respond. If they do not respond to the credit bureau, they have to, by law, remove it off your credit report.
Absolutely.
Hospital bills,
Yeah.
you can dispute those. Anything that you know that, according to what you know about your credit, that you did not pay or that you paid and it showed you did not pay, or it's not even your financial record.
Right.
It's not mine. You can dispute it. And once you dispute it, it can shoot your score up exponentially. Depends on how much you get disputed. A lot of people don't know that. You can actually write it. Doesn't have to be anything. Well, what a letter. Something simple. You know, I dispute item such and such, and a lot of times on your credit report, it's going to have a number. Write that number down.
Mm-hmm.
And when if the lender does not reply, they have to by law remove it off the credit report.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's good stuff, man.
It's good information to know.
Matter of fact, I just pulled my annual credit report
Okay.
last week,
Okay.
and I looked it over to get my my account numbers from those past accounts. I have the letter because, of course, our Anthony Green and Neil Charles assisted me with
Right.
acquiring that letter, and so now I pass it off to Neil so he can look it over.
Good.
To see what we need to challenge, because I want to buy a house.
Mm.
It's almost like starting over. I wish I would have done this kind of stuff, years ago. I wish I would have been more, what's the word? More focused on my credit,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the importance. I'm almost 50 years old. I will be almost 100 when I pay my house.
But it'll be your
If they can experiment every year, you can cut it down. But I will say this, just adding this too. Another reason why you need to look over your credit report, because over the last couple of years, there's been a rise in identity theft. All right.
Yeah.
So with identity theft, that means you may go to the gas station, swipe your card, because people are just, you have so many cyber criminals. They can get your financial information from your card, make purchases in California off your card. You may have did this swipe in Florence, Hartsville, Bennettsville, but you go to look at your credit report, it shows that you done bought off eBay, you done bought off Amazon, somebody purchased in Florida or California. You're like, I never went to those places. I haven't been to those places over the last 12 months. It's because somebody stole your information. So it's very important. And you can dispute that.
That's right.
And once you dispute it, they have to remove. I had that happen one time. I ordered some things online. But let's say hypothetically that happens. What you need to do, go to the bank, have them shut down that card.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Get a new card, because now the only information that cyber criminal has is your old information. So now you have a new card and start doing purchases then. I had that happen a couple of years ago. I was going through my credit report and I saw all of these different spendings in California, Florida, and all these places. So what I did, I called the bank, go to the bank, ask them to pull that report, because sometimes they have insurance to reimburse you back and they can do a dispute for you. But make sure you handle your business. You be assertive in doing this, because your financial future is very important. So I got them to pull it. I shut down that card and got them to issue me a new card, because cyber criminals are very prevalent right now. And just in case you don't have access to it, Anthony Green or Neil Charles, you can go to YouTube. There are many people on YouTube talking about how to dispute, how to do dispute letters. There's a lot of free information out there of how to build your credit. We're going to give a couple tips. Let's just talk about a couple tips of how do I build my credit.
Well, there's a question.
Okay.
We don't want to forget our questions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mr. James Driggers, he asked the question, what is the ups and downs about filing bankruptcies to get your credit straight?
Well, even with filing bankruptcy, there's going to be a time period that
Absolutely.
you can't go out and buy things.
It doesn't mean you're still not responsible. You still have to make
Absolutely.
payments.
That's good.
And so you may think in your mind, like you said, I want a house next year,
Mhm.
but just to clear my credit, well, I'm going to file bankruptcy this year.
Right.
It may be 3 to 5 years before they allow you to make a large purchase of that manner. So you have to be careful. That's one thing to be careful about.
Absolutely. And another thing, just to piggyback on that, you got to realize what bankruptcy you're filing and the ramification for that bankruptcy. So you better look at what the chapter 13, chapter 14, whatever chapter it is, that state. But you just because you file bankruptcy, that does not absolve you of that debt.
Yeah.
right? So we don't want you to think, okay, I'm just go out, get some credit cards, spend them up, max them out, and then file bankruptcy, and I won't have to pay that.
Put yourself back in that same situation
Absolutely,
again. Yeah.
absolutely. So you digging a hole, just digging yourself in a hole. So you don't want to, you don't want to continue to do that. But great question, great question.
Ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. It's better to try to come up with ways to change your debt habits.
That's good.
If you want to make any change, if you want to make a difference, you got to change. Sometimes we need to look at what got me here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm spending frivolously and and I'm spending more than I'm bringing in, because really it's not how much money you make, it's how much you have left after the transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you make $1,500 a month or $3,000 a month or even $7,000 a month, if you have $10,000 worth of spending and you're not taking care of your debt, you're really hurting yourself. So it goes back to spending habits.
That's good. And like you were saying, when a lender's looking at that, they're looking at your debt to income ratio.
There you go.
They don't want to make sure that ensure that you're not overextended, that you can't handle that. But what's that going to do? That's going to create a problem every month, and you're not going to be able to facilitate your responsibility. So yeah, that's very good.
And I want to just touch on one thing Derek did mention about, checking with your bank. Also, look at your bank account, because if you just steady, I deposit my check, I know what's in there, I'm just steady swiping and spending, but never actually go back and look at it.
Absolutely.
Go ask for a printout, or you can do online banking to see things, because you might think, okay, well, yeah, I got $1,000 in the bank, and like you say, someone made that transaction. It looks normal to the bank, so they're not going to inquire about it.
Right.
But you check it and you find out, oh, somebody spent $75 this week, and they might have a steady. They watch your bank account the same way you deposit money. Every 2 weeks, they just taking out $75, and they're spending one or two things here and there, and you find that purchase later on because you finally 3 months from now you look at your account. So be mindful. Just look into your accounts and monitor your own bank account, just so if there's something that you can dispute, you already see it before it happens.
Absolutely.
I learned it the hard way. There's another Craig Lightfoot in Florida.
Wow.
And he made a purchase at a gas station, but it hit my credit. And because I sometimes would call to check my balance, and I realized there was a problem. And so I contacted the bank, and the guy told me, he said, what you need to do is get online banking and monitor your transactions. So that's what I began to do. So once a week I'll do that.
That's good.
Just for safekeeping out.
That's good. And some banks do offer an identity theft feature on their account. So you might want to ask your bank, do they do that? Because if they see some suspicious or some transactions that look maybe not in your type of spending habits, they will automatically, you'll get a phone call and you'll be like, okay, these transactions hit your account. We need you to verify that you actually made those transactions.
And I'll give one tip that's very important that you can do for free. You talk about credit monitoring. Credit Karma. Credit Karma is a good resource. It's free. You can set up your account. And what it does, you can check your credit, because a lot of times, and let me add this too, you can go on Credit Karma, you can see and it may be off 1 or 2 points or 3 points, but it's going to give a good snapshot of where you are credit-wise. You can check that as many times as possible. Also, be careful when you're going to look at purchases, and you go to these places having everybody run your credit.
Inquiries.
Those inquiries, and some of those are what you call hard hits.
That's right.
And once it hits your credit and you don't make that purchase, let me say this as well. If you go to purchase a car, and while going to purchase a car, let's say you see this car, I like this car, and they say, well, we'll run your credit. Make sure you tell them, only send it out to one company, because what they will do, whether it's a house, modular home, mobile home, or car, they will send it out to every lender that they have access to. So your application may go out 10 places. Guess what? That's 10 hits. And sometimes it's 10 hard hits. And those 10, and you be like, I didn't make the purchase. And then you go to run your credit, and you started off at a 700. Now you're wondering why you're at a 615. Because all those hits that they make every time they make an inquiry. So make sure when you go, find out whether or not it's a hard hit or a soft hit, and how many places have they sent your credit out to?
That's good.
Man, I learned so much about credit through Anthony. That's the first time I ever heard about hard pull or soft pull
Right.
through Anthony.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew my credit got whacked.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony would explain, soft pull, hard pull.
So can I give you another hit? Another tip?
By all means.
There's ways that you can use credit cards to help build your credit
That's good.
Yeah.
instead of abusing the credit cards.
Secure
Exactly. So I'm going to give one tip that I think may be very helpful. Let's say that you're, like Craig just said, he wants to make a house, wants to buy a house in the very near future. Or it could be a car. Some of you may be to establish some capital to open up a business. This is a very easy way you can do it without even having a hard hit. There's a company called Open Sky, right? Open Sky, they will allow you to get a card and they report to the credit bureaus. You can get that card, put about $200 on it. It's your money. $200 on it. $200 on that card. Take that $200 card, because it's your money. You know how much is on there. Go and purchase a tank full of gas, $25 worth of gas. Make your payment for the month off, and that's going to boost your credit score.
Goes back to character.
Yeah. And these are easy to use tips of money you already have. It's not like you got to go and sit for this credit. You got to send your credit information in, and now you got a hard hit because now they got to give you this high interest rate, 21% interest credit card. Now you got your own money on your own card. Open Sky, you need to send me some money for saying this, all right? And $200. Don't know this there. $200. Let's say it's your own money. Let's say you get paid. You pay yourself. You're really not losing the money because you're putting it on your own card.
Right.
$200 on that card comes back to you. Go and make a purchase of a T-shirt, maybe a $10 T-shirt or gas. Make that payment. They're gonna report that to the credit bureau as you made a credit card payment.
That's awesome. And I'm gonna tell you another powerful tool that's very, very powerful, because as you're making those payments, right? Guess what? The more you make that payment, guess what they're gonna do to your credit limit? It's gonna increase as well.
Access to capital.
Access to capital. So as that's increasing, guess what? You're more credit worthy, so you have more opportunity to get bigger purchases as well. So that's good.
Neil Charles, he was commenting on what you said. He said secure card they're talking about, guys, Open Sky. He gave the link in case anybody wanted to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There it is.
I got Capital One
Okay.
secure card.
Okay.
Mhm.
And when I first got it, I was splurging. And Phil said no, he told me pretty much what you just said.
Mhm.
He gave it some kind of name.
Mhm.
So what I would do is I would take the gas, and then probably by the next period I would pay it, and I saw seeing my score going up.
Mhm.
And then I would get kind of free-handed, get some cookies, and kind of going outside of
Right.
not being disciplined.
That's good.
And so now I'm putting myself on a budget so I can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful, because you got to have goals, and you got to be disciplined in those goals and knowing why you're doing this. Because if you don't have parameters set, it's easily. One thing about debt, it can work for you, but it can definitely work against you.
Mhm.
So you want to manage that as
That's right.
best you can, and
That's right.
stay. If you got to get an accountability partner or whatever you have to do, just make sure that you're staying true to your
All
goals.
of those things you talked about, Credit Karma. There's Credit Karma. There's another one
Mhm.
that I often sign in just to check my credit
Mhm.
or certain, because they also offer strategy
Mhm.
Right.
as to not so much as the credit card, but tips on how.
Let me add this. Piggy just said, if you're with a bank or a credit union, most credit unions have credit building programs that a lot of people don't know about. So if you belong to a credit union, you can go and inquire and say, listen, do you guys have a credit building program? When I was living in Winston-Salem, there was a credit, it lose my mind the name of the credit union I went to. And they had a credit building program where they would help you set financial goals. And let's say you want to be at a certain credit score by this time. They actually had a credit building program where you could do things like get a card and regulate your spending, and they will purposely report. But you can do this too. If you have taken out a loan for furniture or things of that nature, you can request that they report to the credit bureau. And by reporting to the credit bureau, and especially you don't want them to report if you ain't paying, but report if you're paying. That will help boost your credit score.
And here's just another suggestion. Also, I know a lot of times we may go like to the mall,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting a whole bunch of different credit cards, but you may just want to focus on some of the primary stores that you use. You know, like if you shop for suits out of belts, well, maybe it's good for you to get a belt card, you know, versus I got JCPenney's and, you know, all these different stores, even though I don't really go into them, but I know I go to belt. So, you know.
And pay it on time.
Yeah. And then the flip side of that, if you do have a lot of different cards, you may want to think about consolidating down to, you know, maybe a Capital One card, taking some of that debt from other cards and just put on one place.
From one manageable payment.
Yeah.
And never max out cards.
That's good.
Because it shows that you're not financially responsible. It goes back to credit worthiness.
That's good.
And goes back to what Terrence has been saying. It gives you more access to capital. You never know when you're going to need it. Let's say 3 years from now, you might say, you know what, I like making widgets, but I need some money so I can buy me the material. Well, you don't have to have the money, but if you got the credit is money, and it gives you access to capital. So that's another reason why it would be good to keep a good credit score.
That's good. That's good.
And just to feed into like this, one of our last points of credit, which is collateral, you might even think about your credit, you know, even when you're doing small loans, maybe at a loan company. Well, based on your credit, you may not have to put up the TV, like put up your whole house just to borrow $300 versus, hey, I'll come in, I get it, I pay it back. You know, they may ask for 1 or 2 items, but your credit can be the difference of what you may have to put up.
That's good.
Just to get that small amount of money.
Gotcha. Well, let's dive into this. And Terrence, I'm sure you can add a lot. A lot of people fall victim to predatory lending. Predatory lending. Let's go there for a minute.
Oh wow! I had a personal experience with predatory.
Okay.
I used to be in the military, so like you were saying, nobody taught me about credit and things of that nature. So I went in for some odd reason. I don't know why. Got a payday loan. Why I still don't know to this day. But when I got the payday loan and the money I paid back, I think it was somewhere like 25 to 35% what I paid back.
Yes,
So I was like, oh my goodness. But see, they prey on young soldiers. So they know that a lot of them don't have
young soldiers and college graduates.
So those two people, they prey on. So if you don't know any better, you know, you're doing it. Once you know better, you got to do better.
Yeah.
So I got that loan. I learned from that experience. I was like, oh my goodness. So the next time I got my check, I was like, man, that's already $600-700 gone based on the little money I spent in one weekend. You know, and it wasn't working.
Yeah, and that goes to what you call compound interest. My brother worked in the loan business for years, and he would make loans, and he would talk to me about spending practices and how in some states they can charge up to 35 to 40% interest rates.
Absolutely.
And so that means you get a loan and you say, okay, it's only $5,000. By the time you pay that off, you paid 3 times what you borrowed because of compound interest. Now, compound interest can either work for you or against you. Now, it works for you if you're investing.
That's right.
If you invested over a period of time, that interest compounds and you get a greater return on your investment.
That's right.
But as far as debt, if you have high compound interest, that means you're paying longer over the life of that loan. You have people that have bought cars for $10,000 and paying on that $10,000 car for the last couple of years, and it's bad to buy a car for $10,000. You end up paying $25,000 for a $10,000 car because of compound interest.
You know, letting it stretch it out for you.
And you know, I used to work in the car dealership, right?
Wow.
And so when I worked in the car dealership, one of the things I did see many times what the salesman would do. Oftentimes, the only thing we want to know is the monthly payment.
Right.
How much is the monthly payment? We never look at the life of the loan payment.
That's good. Very
good. So when they come, they say, okay, this guy got a 580 credit score. My job is just to sell him the car.
Right.
You know, so he comes and we used to have the 4-block quadrants, right? Down payment, monthly payment, and the interest and whatever. But they really don't emphasize interest because what you're trying to see is, can I get the car?
Right.
You know, just to be able to get the car. I made you fall in love with the car. This is the best car. When you get this car, everybody gonna be looking at you and calling your name. I mean, just flaring the car. But what we don't look at is when we get the paperwork, you just say, sign here, sign here, sign here. We don't look at the fine writing, and it actually is going to show you that at the end of 36 payments or 72 months, it costs you bought the car for 20 grand. At the end of 72 months, you would have paid. Yeah, you would have paid $34,500. Now the car costs 15.
Right.
So you're not looking at it for 72 months at a 7% interest or 10% interest or even possibly a 15% interest. You're not looking at the life of it. And when I make my last payment on this car, it costs 15 grand. My last payment, I paid 26,000 because we're not looking at the compound interest and the life of the loan.
That's very good.
And one other thing, you know, even when we're talking about our car payments, you know, some months we may want to pay extra, but make sure when you send that payment in, that it goes to principal.
There you go.
That's good. That's good.
Because
that's right.
Very good.
Because they apply it to the end, they're gonna get theirs.
That's right.
They're gonna treat it like a regular car
There
payment,
you go.
which
Very
whatever
good.
their percentage is, they're gonna take that off first. Rest of it goes to principal. So if you're gonna make your car payment and then you want to say I want to pay extra $100 a month, when you specify that extra 100 is going to your principal, so it brings down the car payment, and then at the end of it, it's still knocking down.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna add on to what he said. What he just said was gold because let's say your payment is $350. Do you know maybe only $86 may go towards your principal? So the rest of that payment is going towards interest, insurance, and all this. So what he said is very important. Make sure you put it towards the principal. And another thing, if you do get a house and you make monthly payments, pay one extra payment at the end of the year. That will cut the years off on your mortgage by paying one extra payment at the end of the year.
That's good. I want to chime in on that as well. We talk about assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Car is a type of asset. House is an asset as well. But you got to look at the difference between is an appreciated asset or a depreciated asset. So typically when you buy a car, right, that's a depreciating asset. So if you're paying 35% on something that's depreciating in value,
You're losing money.
you're losing money. So you got to realize what are you doing, why are you doing it, and what is the goal of doing it. Versus you buying a house, typically houses appreciate in value. So as you buy it, it appreciates. So you're getting more money on the end. When you want to sell it, or you just want to keep it, or you want to give it to your children, it costs more now that it appreciated value when you initially bought.
And very important what you just said. That's why we're in a time now. People are leaning more towards pre-owned cars. Did you know you get a brand new car the moment you drive off the lot? It is now a used car.
The moment, right?
The moment.
You said the moment.
The moment.
Yes, sir. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Not
So,
tomorrow.
the moment you sign, put the key in that Malibu and drive off the lot, it has just dropped in value.
But isn't it like a mobile home? The moment you pull that mobile home off the lot, it depreciates.
Yeah, but there are ways that you can upgrade your appreciation.
That's a little different. When you can get the foundation, things like that.
Foundation, take the wheels off.
Yes, sir.
You will, and actually you can get the title changed over, digested, and they can be considered a stick-built home.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. When you drive off, so that's why we have to be careful even in our purchase. Terrence just said it: appreciating versus depreciating assets. So therefore, I should maybe invest in lands and prioritize my major purchases versus my frivolous purchases.
Absolutely, I agree.
Neil Charles says this is the best time to obtain things because of COVID-19. Everybody should try to get their credit fixed. Interest rates are lower for houses and cars.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think this will happen again in history. We don't like what COVID-19 is doing, but let's be proactive during this pandemic.
That's exactly why we're doing this teaching today. Because we want you to be prepared and then the opportunities that's coming. In this new normal that we're having, you want to be, if you maybe you say you will be 50 or 100 years old, but it's never too late to start. So you can start today. You can play catch up now. So
let me add that. So your $1,200 stimulus check,
come on, sir.
And instead of going and buying the nails hips, tips, and fingertips. So to make your hips, tips, and fingertips look. What about making your bank account look good?
Oh, that's good.
Instead of getting the nails, buying the skirt,
And the
and
rim.
buying the rims and all this kind of stuff, put that money in a way. Make your money work for you, not you work for your money.
That's very good.
I was gonna go right where you are, because even although it's the stimulus time, it's still tax time too.
Right.
Maybe pay off a few credit cards, your smaller ones.
Good. That's the debt snowball he about to talk about. Come on.
Just to go ahead and get them out of the way,
Mhm.
or take a certain amount of money, look at your credit cards, and just make a steady payment over the next 6 months to keep everything in
That
line.
builds, yeah.
That will help build your credit. Or like you say,
Absolutely.
you pay it off. My mom, and she's excellent about it. I can send her some money. I'm sending it to her for a Christmas present or a birthday present, Mother's Day, and she said, "Oh, baby, that's so nice. I'm gonna go pay this card off." And that's what she does.
Mm.
And next thing you know, she's got her credit proof. They offer her something bigger,
Mhm.
Right.
And she's within her bank and maybe one or two companies,
Right.
but she sees where, if I get extra, let me just pay this off. So now is one of those times where, like I said, we have our stimulus money, our tax money.
Mhm.
Set, you may pay something off,
Mhm.
or either set some money aside just to make steady payments to your credit cards and still take care of your kids also.
Very good. Very good.
And just to add on what he just said is very important. I think even now, if some of you may be out of work, then go ahead and call those lenders. There's a lot of programs a lot of people don't know that's in place that they can provide a grace period or some cushion or some relief, get some financial relief. But also to add during this time that it is a buyer's market right now. I mean, in terms, and I say buyer's market, it sounds oxymoron because a lot of people don't have money, but for people that do have money or still have an income stream coming in, a lot of housing market right now, some of them is down to 0.1% interest.
Wow.
So you're talking about and people don't realize how much interest rates really determine the spending over the life of that loan.
Right.
So if you got small interest rates right now, this is the best time to take advantage, especially if you get it locked in at a fixed rate. Now let's talk about that between fixed rate and variable rate, right? So when you go to buy a house, what you want to get is a fixed rate, because if you get a variable rate, that means your interest will be based upon the market for that year.
Yep.
All right. So let's say you get a house and your mortgage payment is $700 at a variable rate. Well, let's say that's 2020. 2021, you get a notice and say now it's $750. All right, they pick because it's judging by the market. 2022, and now it's $830. Like, man, I thought I had it at $700 because that's a variable rate. Always try to get fixed rate, because now you know exactly what your payment going to be every month.
That's good. Very good. So the opportunities are there. Will you be prepared to capitalize on those opportunities? So those are some tough questions you must ask.
Yeah.
Find out exactly where you're at, so you can't fix anything that you don't know you have a problem with. So you need to find out your score. Typically, the scores range between 300 to 850. You need to find out where you fall on that spectrum. Okay.
Mhm.
Find out where you're at and where you want to go. What do you want to do? What kind of goals do you have? What kind of purchases that you want to make? You have to make that determination. I mean, interest rates are low, but you must be prepared, because the rate is low. If your score don't qualify, you can't capitalize on this epic opportunity, this unprecedented opportunity that we have now. Anything else, fellas, y'all want to add?
My main thing is monitor your spending habits. Right now, it is a tough time for everyone, but we still have to look at the opportunity to do what's important, spend on our families versus just, money has been given to us. Let's go wild out. Right now, bills are delayed, with certain companies, your light bill might be delayed for a few months, this and that. Well, maybe take the money and still just pay on it, because in 3 months, it's going to build up. And if you're taking your money now and just blowing it on whatever, that bill is still there.
Right.
So as we get stimulus money, tax, that's what it's for, to sustain those things. So be mindful of where we at with our spending.
And for those of you that's watching, something I talked about earlier, start having conversations with your children about the importance of credit. And if you don't know, there's so many different outlets out here that will educate you. Because listen, I'm sitting here, I'm learning a lot of stuff already. I've learned some stuff, but I'm still learning, and it's okay. There's so many different outlets that you can learn from. YouTube, Anthony Green, Neil Charles. I mean, so many different outlets you can learn, but it's important that you start now.
Also, just to add to what Craig just said, very important. We need to think about leaving financial legacies for our children. Proverb comes to my mind: a wise man will lay up for his children's children. Sometimes laying up financial information for your children's children. Your credit score is your financial DNA.
That's good.
Just as we pass our physical or biological DNA to our kids, we need to know how to pass on economic DNA. How to teach them how to buy. How children don't just go by what you say; they go by what you do. All right, we're creatures of habit, so we need to teach them how to purchase. Why dad does this? Why dad spend this? And educate them. Just don't do it. Educate them. Walk them through action steps, because when they become little you, they're gonna have to decide what to do and how to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One thing I just want everybody to be mindful of this information. Visit our Facebook page, Man to Man Fatherhood, and visit our website. And even when you finish this particular live, make sure you do our engagement survey. Let us know that you are participating. Leave your name in the comments so we can track and see who's participating, who watched it, and hopefully this information is beneficial to them.
Also, to add, if you are a participant of our program, there are surveys. What are the surveys that we need done?
The engagement surveys.
We need to do the engagement surveys so we'll know that you are with us. And the website is called mantomanfathers.com. Mantomanfathers.com. Need you to do those engagement surveys. Be safe.
And be on the lookout for a credit workshop too, because we might get on to that.
Sounds good. Listen, guys, if you guys like this video, did you find value in it? Please like, share, tag. Like, share, tag. Okay, we want to get the word out. We want to get information out about credit, and we want to be prepared even in this time of pandemic. Once we come out, we want to be prepared to thrive and not just survive. All right? Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, that's the music.
Oh, that's an outro music, outro.